An angry pagan. Now, this one might annoy some of my Scottish viewers, but I consider myself to be, in large part, Scottish. I have a lot of Scottish blood in me, and it doesn't just go back one or two generations. This goes back like a fair few generations. And the reason I say this is because this is my argument against independence. It's my foremost argument against independence, in the fact that, like, now we are there are so many people within England who have Scottish blood, and people within Scotland who have English blood. We're British. We're both part of this fucking island, and we're not all that. We're not as different as many would like to think. Especially these days, the younger generation does not care for the arguments of the past, or you know, for example, I mean, me, for a long time, I was ashamed to be English. Now, as a non-absolutist, I can hold the view that I can be both ashamed and proud to be English. But I see myself as British because not only do I have Anglo-Saxon lineage, I have Celtic lineage from Scotland and a little bit from Wales. So it winds me up when someone says to me that England should go for its own independence movement. And it winds the fuck out of me, because people who say this to me should know that anyone with that kind of attitude in England is on the right. And I really don't want to give Farage any more ammunition, thank you very fucking much. Now, again, this might upset some of my Scottish viewers, but this is my view on it. I grew up around these arguments to do with Scottish independence, at least in part. And this came from both the English side and the Scottish side. And there were Scots who'd say the exact same shit as me. We don't need to be independent. What is actually needed is a reset between the relations between the UK, with the nations within the UK. What is actually needed is full devolution. Proper devolution. Power being taken away from, the majority of power being taken out of Westminster, given out to the regions and the nations. We're better working together. The better idea, like, the Scots want to leave this union and rejoin the European Union. So they don't want to be independent. They want to, leave this union to join a stronger union. But more people, a majority of people in England want to rejoin the EU anyway. And I wonder just how long it would take the Scottish to become a member of the EU. It would take quite a while, I reckon. Just as much as it would take for us in England to rejoin. The UK as a whole to rejoin. And it's not like I don't sympathise with the Scottish independence argument either. I have said more than once on this channel that I do actually sympathise with the independence argument from Scotland and from Wales. And that's because England, in Westminster, has played the superior card for way too long. We aren't superior. Westminster isn't superior to the others. And there are more people with my point of view these days than not. Wales doesn't even have the same amount of devolved powers as Scotland, which I think is bang out of order. And Scotland doesn't have enough of devolved powers. It should be able to raise a lot more money by itself. It should be able to make decisions for its own fucking parliament by itself. But for those decisions that affect all of us on this island, I think the rest of us should have a say as well. Why? Because we're on the same fucking island. It's the same logic as trying to be within the EU. We're all part of the same continent. Well, guess what? We're all part of this same fucking island. Now, again, I am not coming from a position of English superiority here. I don't think that England should be in charge of Wales and Scotland. I believe that we should all be equal, as do most of my generation and the next generation, Generation Z, who are going to be the next ones to take over. So those people who are trying to tell me this is never going to change, I will just politely ask you to fucking take another look and be a little bit less absolutist in your thinking. I understand why many Scots wish to become independent of the UK, because England is is in a superior position, and politically, and likes to try and lord it over the rest of the nations. Well, again, like, as the generations move on, this attitude is becoming less and less and less and less. More people now want to see Scotland and Wales decide their own, decide what they want to do within their own parliaments and shit, rather than England telling them constantly what to do. And when I said about it should be for the whole, like, for certain issues, it should be for the whole island to make the decision, people from all different parts of the island to make decisions, especially when it comes to, say, security. I'm not saying that England should make the decisions here. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that everyone should have a say in what fucking happens. I'm not a fan of all this. Everyone should be separated up into the different sections. No, like, Homo sapiens is not pure Homo sapiens, unless you're in Africa, and even then, like, most humans who moved out of Africa ended up blending with other species, like Homo neanderthalis, or Homo erectus, or Homo floresiensis, Homo denisovans. None of us are purely one thing or the other. So those people going, "Oh, I'm Scottish, I'm not English," that's your fucking choice to decide that, mate. That's all on you. But we're all part of the same fucking island, which is called Britain. And a lot of us on this island share blood with people from Wales, like, share blood between the different nations. So we're not all that separated as people would like us to think that we are. I don't like having a go like this, especially when it comes to the Scots, because, again, I really do sympathise with their position. But I get sick and tired when people try to tell me that England should do the same, when we have people like fucking Farage. England going for that position will just give Farage more ammunition. Not only that, but people on the left in England don't want to do that, make that move. Why? Because we see it as a bad move. I'm sorry, it really winds me up. Because I don't try to tell the Scots or the Welsh how to think. And when I put my arguments to them, they go, "Oh no, we're the ones who are right. We're the ones who are right. We've been arguing for this for 50 years. We're the ones who are right." Well, guess what? New generation, different ideas, different way of thinking about doing shit. Just because things have been going on in a similar way for the last 300 years does not mean it's going to continue necessarily. Because evolution happens, people. Now, That doesn't mean to say that at some point in the future I don't see the UK being changed or evolving in some way. It could happen. I can see it happening, but it doesn't have to. Again, the same logic that makes people want to be part of the EU. I want this union, all of it, to be part of the EU. Not just Scotland, not just Wales, not just England in their own separate parts, but actually as a whole within the EU. A union within a union. Personally, I'd like to move, Westminster, Parliament, to somewhere like the Isle of Man. In the middle of the Isles. That's where I'd move it to, and if that means that people have to travel to the Isle of Man from across the UK to be represented in Parliament, fine. I don't fucking care. As long as it's out of London. And the reason why I picked the Isle of Man is because it's outside of England as well. So it just winds me up a little bit. That independence is the only way to go. And one of the reasons why I sympathise with the independence movement in Scotland and Wales, especially in Scotland, is because they voted against Brexit. And they were promised, if you stay within this union, we will not leave the other union, the European Union. And then 2 years later, Brexit. So I get that argument. But guess what? I didn't get to fucking vote for I didn't at the time get to vote for Brexit. And I would have voted Remain. I had my freedom of movement forcibly taken away from me by others who were fucking paranoid. So I'm just as angry as you lot, believe it or fucking not. I want my freedom of movement back. I want the opportunity for free travel. Never got to use it when we were part of the EU. Why? Because I never had the opportunity to. Never had the money to. Now I'm older and now I'm matured a bit. I know I can save money. If we were still in the EU, I'd be able to save enough money to go on a trip within the EU. Can't fucking do that now, can I? So I'm sorry, but yes, whilst I have sympathy for the Scottish and Welsh views, because they were forcibly taken out of the EU against their will, guess what? So was I, and so many other English people who voted for Remain, who didn't get to vote because we're too young. It's not just you that have to fucking pay for it. And I get told this bullshit as well. England should look in on itself and fix itself before trying to fucking deal with everyone else. Well, again, I refer back to my point. Not all of us are just English, like myself. When I go to a funeral, especially one like my dad's funeral, a funeral from my dad's side of the family, many people turn up in a fucking kilt, or I've got this tartan. It can't be seen properly. It's kind of a shame, but this tartan, the Watson tartan, as a tart. So we consider ourselves to be just as much Scottish as English. I keep being told, why can't you see things from our position? Why can't you see things from our position? Why can't you see things from my position? I do see things from your position. I have spent many, many hours researching and thinking about the Scottish position and sympathising and empathising with the Scottish position. But when did he ever try to understand my position or people like my position? They don't. And so calling for the English to go for English independence movement, to me, is insulting. Especially when we have people like fucking Farage, who haven't been pushed out to the social forays yet. it's going to take time to heal this to heal these nations. And over time, I'm willing to bet that the relationship between England, Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland is going to change. And the more people like me that are out there pushing for a better relationship, a more equal relationship between the different constituent parts of the UK, which there are, the better. It's not going to happen next year. It's not going to happen in the next 5 years. But in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe even 15 years, there is a proper generational shift here. I mean, if I was Prime Minister, if the Welsh wanted an independence referendum, they get it. If if I was Prime Minister and the Scots came to me and said, we want another referendum, they get it immediately. But that doesn't mean I'm going to argue for it. I can have a unionist position and still want the Scottish to have another independence referendum, or the Welsh to have their own independence referendum, or for people in Northern Ireland to have a referendum finally on whether or not they should rejoin the rest of Ireland. I don't mind this shit. I have a nuanced opinion here. But what keeps being chucked back at me doesn't seem to be that in kind, because, I don't know, apparently all English people look down on Scottish people. And it's always going to be like that. That's the attitude I'm getting. I was invited onto the Two Davies YouTube channel, right? By Scots. You know, oh, you'd be welcome on there. The problem is, the reason why I've stopped attending these live streams from the Two Davies is because I just constantly feel as if people are being hostile to me. And people like me. Because we would rather see Scotland as an equal partner rather than Scotland as an independent neighbour. And that's because most of us in England, most of the people I know in England, and most of the people I talk to within England, have Scottish family and Welsh family. I know people in Scotland and in Wales who have English family that goes back many generations. And not just down to England being authoritarian. No, this was a blending between people, especially after the Act of Union. I just want to reiterate here, just because I have my opinions on this does not mean that I don't want the Scots to have another independence referendum. This doesn't mean I'm anti-Scottish. Far from it. I hope people understand where I'm coming from here. I'm not angry at the Scots wanting independence. That's not what I'm angry about. I'm angry about an idea being constantly pushed to me that would be destructive for my particular part of this island. Destructive. Just saying. Let me know what you guys think. And again, this isn't me trying to look down on the Scots or the Welsh. Again, if I was Prime Minister, they'd get their independence referendums, and we'd see we'd see what happens from the result of them, and we'd deal with the result of them. But that doesn't mean I'm going to argue for it. Fucking ridiculous. I'm sorry, I put across my points of view here. And, again, it's not like there aren't valid arguments for Scottish independence, because there are. Many. But, I'm sorry, just me personally, no. I don't side with that argument. And I am far from agreeing to England trying for an independence movement. Again, especially when Farage is still in circulation and people like him. So, no, thank you. It's not happening. I am not going to accept that point of view. So yeah, my shield at your backs, guys. And please don't take too much insult from this video. Like, this wasn't meant to be insulting. I'm just annoyed. Alright? My shield at your backs, guys. Blessed are say and good will. Blessed be in good faith.